can we say big? This is Wrestlezone's live post-show for WWE Summerslam 2020 from the Thunderdome. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, jump into the chat and get your comments on screen. Don't forget to not stink and share the link. If you're with us on the podcast side of things, thank you so much. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show as well on whatever podcast app you choose. We have tons of free content for free with no Patreon wall behind it whatsoever. All right. If you're with us live, your comments on screen. No super chats. All right. Everyone gets it in. It's free 99 when we're talking wrestling with Wrestlezone. What's up, everybody? I am Kevin Kellam. Joining me is the guy from the Keith Paesel podcast. Let me check here in my notes. Yes, it is Keith Paesel. How you doing, Keith? How are you, bud?
Very good, Kevin. Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, I am Kevin Kellam. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at Kev Kellam. Of course, Keith, they can follow you. How do they spell it? There's a little bit of a different thing with yours, right? Am I wrong?
KeithPaesel.
There we go. All right, maybe we'll do that again. Roman Reigns is back in WWE. This was the shocking ending, the thing that we didn't see coming. This was a big, little clever thing. I did enjoy when WWE does things where they're like, hey, you're going to get something tonight. You're going to get this, but we're not going to say what it is. And they even tried to make it seem like Drew McIntyre beating Randy Orton was the thing that you didn't see coming. They had commentary say it, and that was the second to last match. We'll talk about that match here too. But this was a big moment. The final match of the night was Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, versus Braun Strowman. Falls Count Anywhere match. There you go, all over the place. It's a fun match. I wouldn't call it a match that was bigger. I'm burping up gyros. I wouldn't call it better than anything else on the show. It was a strong match. It was definitely one of the better matches on the show. It was fun. Yeah. Braun Strowman just wrecking stuff, going around, smashing things, being big. And then he took out a box cutter, and I saw people yelling MDK and all that stuff, like Nick Gage from GCW. People already given us their ratings on the show. If you're with us live, give us your rating. Michael Off has already given us 7.5, 1 to 10. Don't give me your rating yet, Keith. We got to tease them.
We got to tease it.
Tease them before we please them. But this main event, it was all over the place. It was wild. And Braun wanted to up the ante. So he's going to remove the canvas padding, and he's going to smash him on that wood, only for him to be the one who is smashed upon the wood by the monster, and he took several big bumps on that exposed wood, and he was pinned clean. This seems like the right thing to do to get the belt off Braun Strowman. It hasn't been the greatest summer for Big Braun, right?
No, it hasn't. I thought, because my problem with The Fiend in general was I love the character. I think he does great things with it. I like the dual personalities, but I don't think he ever has gotten an opportunity to have a good match, because the character is this dominant force. And then you have him wrestle Daniel Bryan, and it just doesn't clash. So I think Braun was a perfect match to it, because it's just them smashing each other the whole time, and you can kind of just no-sell each other the whole time, and it makes sense.
Yeah, if you're with us live, share link, guys. Let's try and make this a really, really big show. A lot of new people joining us for the first time. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Timothy Tim gives it a 9.0. Love SummerSlam. So a lot of people really enjoying this show. I have some things I didn't like about it. We'll get into that. Not everything was all summer and sunshine here on SummerSlam. We'll touch on the boo-boos and the no-nos before the night is through. Don't worry. I know the AEW people are like, oh, I don't want a weekend where people are talking about me and Turner Broadcasting. So don't worry. This was a fun match. I enjoyed it. It was wild, but it was the right time to do this with Braun. Fiend is a much more over character, even as a villain, even as a hero. The duality you mentioned with him, he's probably one of the more dynamic characters that WWE has made in the last 10 or 20 years in terms of all the different things you can do with him. He is a character that I see the most conversation about him, about what he's going to do. What can you do with the Fiend? And I see fans talking about him purely in kayfabe, not, oh, this guy wants to leave for this money or go to this. They talk about the Fiend like it's a superhero movie. Like they want to see him do something in the storyline. And few characters get to have that complete kayfabe perception that he has. So I thought it was right to put the title on him and kind of make him the focal part of the show, but it wasn't just that. That wasn't enough. We thought maybe we were going to get Retribution attacking at the end of the show. A lot of fans speculated on that. There was some speculation that a guy from Chicago, our neck of the woods, You're in LA. You're no longer Chicago. You sold out for the coast, Keith.
My heart's still there.
your large beef Polish heart.
Yeah,
it's still there. Polish sausage right here. Yeah, I got ate a dozen Polish sausages. It's a Chicago Sunday. So we thought we were going to get something big like Retribution coming out. Maybe we were going to get Chicago's very own CM Punk coming out. Some people were speculating that he would reveal himself as the leader of Retribution. He even posted some teasers that I think were just false flags on Instagram today, on his Instagram story, not on anything else. So it kind of flashes in and out. You really have to catch it. Some people sent it to us, and we kind of paid attention to it, but we didn't think there was anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he started to use the same marketing phrases that WWE was using.
You know what? I
Yeah.
thought so. After they play the package that started the match, they have a close-up of the Fiend in his mask, and then it fades away, and the outline that it leaves looks like a different face. I even paused it and rewound it and asked my girlfriend, like, do you see a face in that black screen? And it kind of looked like New Jack or Jay Lethal or someone. So I was like, is this our surprise? Are they hiding it in the pre-match package? But it ended up just being a silhouette of the mask as it was fading out.
And that's a fun thing to do. I think with the Thunderdome, and we'll talk about Thunderdome as well, there's a lot of different things you can do with that in terms of elements that they haven't played with yet. It's a brand new thing. Some people don't like it. Some people love it. Some fans will wait in line online to get into this thing. And I wonder when they're going to start charging people to get into it too. But it's a whole other thing here. I think what we got, Roman Reigns coming out at the end of the show, and we haven't seen him, a guy who pulled out of the game here with the pandemic, just had new children born, himself overcoming leukemia later last year, and him clarifying, some people saying, because he came over leukemia, maybe he's immune compromised. He didn't want to take the threat of being around anything with COVID and WWE being challenged by that. They had to move to the Performance Center. And here he is. He's back. This guy pulled himself out of WrestleMania because he was, scared for potentially exposing someone else to this virus that's going around that we're all aware of. And here he's back in WWE. A major player, a big-time guy. They got him locked down for a couple of years. People love him. But when he came out and did stuff, he didn't do things that make people love you. He came out. He attacked Braun. He attacked Bray. He had a T-shirt that said, "Wreck everyone else."
Called everyone a bitch.
Called everyone a bitch. If you start calling people bitch, it's serious in WWE. Bitch is the most serious thing.
That's a huge word.
WWE.
Yeah.
And so this was a huge moment. And if you're a casual wrestling fan, this is bigger. I think for the casual wrestling fans, the younger fans in their teens and 20s, this is a bigger story. He is not a cross-aisle wrestler in that way. In the sense of the hardcore dudes in our 30s and 40s who've been watching their whole life don't like Roman because Roman's all about the baby girls and like getting women to the show. And guess what? If you're a 10-year-old kid, you lost your mind. My nephew Eamon was watching this, and I'm very certain he was losing his mind because his favorite wrestler is Roman Reigns, and he was losing his mind at this. But Roman Reigns may not be doing things that the young baby girls and baby boys may like here, because he came back and he laid people out. And is this a heel turn? Do we get a heel Roman Reigns coming back, or is this just a hey, you're holding my title, you only got that because I wasn't here type thing?
I think it should be a real heel turn because I think there's a real opportunity for them to take advantage of all the rumors about why he was gone for so long and either turn it on the fans and say, look, you guys gave up on me. You called me weak or turn it on the company and say, I just care about my family and you guys erase me from the company's history. I'm not in promo packages anymore. I didn't get pinned for the title at WrestleMania. Like, he could acknowledge that. That would be so cool for him to just come back and be pissed about, like, you guys erased me for this company that I literally almost gave my life for.
He definitely has motivation, and maybe he even has retribution. Are those going to be tied together? Are there some people already in the comments are saying that is Roman Reigns going to be a part of the retribution group? Is this just Thomas Sabers Jr. is texting here saying maybe he would already be the leader of retribution. He's all dressed in black, they didn't connect the dots, but I wouldn't hate it either. And he is a big character. He's a character that's ran with a group like the Shield before. He's been a part of a faction like that before. So kayfabe wise, you could believe that he has those tactics to destroy and upset something like that. It would certainly be interesting to see it for sure. I'm into it. I thought it was a big ending. And the match itself was okay, but this was a big ending. If you wanted something big, this is a huge way to end one of the biggest shows of the year. So I could definitely see from people watching the show, you guys are into this. Did you like it? If you liked Roman Reigns showing up at the show, smash a like, and I'll kind of literally see the metric right away, because I could see some people not liking it, but you can't blame that this wasn't a big ending. Like if you just were a casual fan that only watches the Manias and the Royal Rumbles, Roman Reigns, who he is. Whoa, he's back. Like that would feel like a big thing. And I'm saying that to a casual fan, a hardcore fan. If you want surprises with a couple of good matches, you got what you wanted out of SummerSlam. We'll dig into the whole card here, but let's kind of see what fans are thinking here as they kind of click in here. Donnie Klein saying Roman Reigns and AOP, the new Shield. A lot of people have said that before. They just want to see Roman Reigns with two other guys and be the Shield. But I think the retribution is a little bit more of a bigger thing here. Other people saying, of course, you got to love an adult who wants to make fun of children. That's a common trait amongst male wrestling fans, right? Keith, you've been to the All-State Arena with me a couple of times. One of my favorite things is to yell at children at wrestling shows.
Yeah, pretend to be a referee.
Yeah. 1, 2.
Haven't got the movements.
Yes, Keith, you know this at pay-per-view parties. I would just get on I would just start slapping the floor.
Yeah.
Pinballs.
You do the shoulder.
Shoulder. Oh, I was almost gonna send the boys in the thread like a video tonight, but I couldn't sync up the video with the screen as to when someone was taking out of somebody. Joe Priestley texting in saying, all those little kid tears, they taste so good. Hashtag heel Roman. So he's into it here. So he wants to see it. CC Pink saying that's an interesting idea. I guess people are interested in the idea of a potential thing here with Roman as the leader of Retribution. And a big fan of the show. Got to shout him out on every single episode. Got to shout him out. Absolutely got to shout him out. James Espanto Fernando Taguay. I didn't roll the R on that one. Fernando Taguay. Sorry, I got to get that right.
I love.
He says, I would like to see Braun move over to Raw and face Keith Lee. That was something else we got tonight. Keith Lee had a big match on NXT TakeOver. We'll try and touch on that tonight, and that'll be something else. A lot of different things they announced tonight as well. They announced a couple of different things over the weekend about what's going on here. Overall, this is a fun angle, and I'm interested in what happens next. And I think with WWE producing so much content and feeding the proverbial beast of content consumption, keeping you interested in what happens next is important. Let me just say that. Come out of the show, and we'll get into every individual match and storyline and the circus of it all. Did WWE do enough to make you want to watch Raw tomorrow? Want to watch SmackDown next week? Follow the next big things, because the shows that come after a pay-per-view tend to be very interesting storyline-wise. We launch kind of new chapters and new things.
Only because of Roman, I think, and I never thought I'd say that about a Roman Reigns return, but only because of Roman Reigns and what could be as far as him. Is he heel? Is he, like, all those questions? If they don't deal with that in the first hour, I think that's a miss on their part. They need to open the show with that Roman Reigns music. They're dumb if they don't.
Well, I mean, I think he's sticking on SmackDown. I think we're going to see this guy on SmackDown.
All right.
And SmackDown is a bigger show for WWE right now. It's significantly. I can say that the debut of Thunderdome on Friday and all the angles they did with Retribution and Vince being in the ring with Bray and Braun and all the different stuff they did on that show proved to be very, very successful. That show went up by nearly 350,000 average overnight viewers. And scored top in network television in the 18 to 49 demo. So SmackDown, I think, is where Roman Reigns needs to be. But with Retribution, if he's a part of that, he can be on any show. And I do think WWE is going to start doing that a little bit more. Have bigger players on different shows.
Slow play it too. I think they need to play it out for like a month.
Mm-hmm. And also we have Payback next weekend. We have another special, next weekend, which is another clever thing that WWE is doing. And people say, how come they have so many pay-per-views? Because it's not, pay-per-view isn't the same thing anymore. Yeah. WWE sells you a Netflix subscription. They don't sell you a pay-per-view. They sell you a Netflix subscription with pay-per-views within it. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to get you staying on what they're doing or coming on because you heard about stuff. So, and this will get people talking. People that maybe tuned out of WWE in the past 6 months are going to come back for something like this to find out what Roman Reigns is going to do on SmackDown or at Payback next Saturday.
It works too, because I Before SummerSlam, I hadn't watched the WWE Network in about 5 months, but I pay for it every month. They get my money every month, and I never touch it because NXT is on TV now, and I have cable. But if I just have it because every now and again they do something I want to watch, and and that's worth $10 a month to me to maybe watch WWE.
But you follow it, so you're on the casual side, and I like having fans that have that bridge because I think that's the real conversation. We can get into the semantics of all these different things, and we'll get into all the other matches. But I mean, like, if the headline coming out of SummerSlam is Roman Reigns is back, we don't know what he's doing, and it seems like he's doing some big things, that's a whole bunch of possibilities then. All of them seem pretty exciting. So let's get into the card overall. Some matches did disappoint. We'll get those out of the way pretty quickly here. Sonya Deville versus Mandy Rose was supposed to be a hair versus hair match, an old classic staple of pro wrestling. And someone gets their hair buzzed, but apparently with real life things like an attempted, very real, very, very dangerous kidnapping situation occurring to Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose is present for it. That kind of influenced the storyline, and then it flipped this past Friday into it's no longer hair versus hair. It's loser leaves WWE, no DQ match. A lot of emphasis on this match emotionally. I like the storyline. This was really a test more for Mandy Rose. I think people believe the athleticism that Sonya Deville has with her MMA background to make her more of a combatant. Mandy, I think, can do some things, but she kind of got exposed here. Her transitions from move to move weren't so clean. They were supposed to do some hardcore things. They tried a little bit of them, but no one really went through a table or anything like that. Maybe they were protecting it for later on in the night because they did a bunch of different table stuff throughout the night, a bunch of different hardcore things throughout the night. So maybe they just wanted to keep that away from there. Mandy Rose, though, did get the win. Couple of big running knee shots. It did look cool. She's not the worst wrestler I've ever seen, but she just didn't look like the best wrestler tonight. Let me just be clear on that. And Sonya Deville is gone. She's out of WWE for whatever that means. Maybe we don't see her for a while. Maybe she is done with WWE, but you got to think that those real life things that happened this week, which are very, very scary, influenced maybe kind of a turn here going into SummerSlam and what they were going to do.
I said they needed to take her off TV. I go, she lost because she needs to go deal with a stalking case in court. That probably takes about a month. So that's probably why they got to write her off TV.
Yeah, and it's definitely a scary situation. I went, and then you have to perform around that. Like, even if you're both these women, you have to go in there and like still feel like you have to finish this storyline that you've been working on for the past 4 or 5 months and wanting to fulfill on it.
If you notice, they kind of, because the story kind of blew the gimmick a little bit, because I mean, everybody knows they're friends, but a week before your big match, when it comes out that you guys have been hanging out, because if you noticed on Friday, they kind of mentioned a couple times that like, yeah, we were friends. Like they reestablished their friendship.
And they had Friday. Mandy Rose say, I see the good in you, and I will hope we can get through this. And then Sonya just said, no, screw this. I'm going to make it even worse. Like it's like
my personal opinion. I think this blow off should have happened with Otis and Dolph. This should have been, you do some one-on-ones to establish it, and then you blow it off with a tag match. So you can have wrestlers
they've been working this since what, March?
Oh, yeah, and I liked it. I liked the whole Otis and Mandy's, his little peach and all that stuff. That was fun. Like, you could have really done some good stuff with this.
It was definitely something there. A lot of people joining the show. If you're with us for the first time, get your comments on screen. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe as well. We're live after Raw. We're live after AEW and NXT. We have a bunch of free content for you right now on our podcast feed. By the way, an interview with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, talking about someone who had a very big night. Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. We get to hear his opinion about them. That interview is for free on our podcast feed. Go subscribe. Look for that the logo you see right up there. WZ, red and black since 1998, baby. Go look for it on. You have to do that thing where you point at the different part of the screen. Go check it out there. Rolling on here with SummerSlam. We have the Street Profits. Pretty strong match with Andrade and Garza. Nothing to shout home about. I didn't understand why Bianca Belair wasn't there since she was involved in the build to this with the poisoning storyline. Pretty strong match. Nothing great. Part of the first hour of SummerSlam that was kind of we have Bayley versus Asuka. We knew we were going to get 2 matches with Asuka. We knew one of them was likely going to be shorter than the other, and the other would be much more of a feature match. We got Sasha versus Asuka being much more of a longer match. Bayley versus Asuka was kind of shorter, and Bayley got out of it because Sasha helped her. Storyline played in later on in the night. because we got a longer, more competitive match where they traded holds. One of them's going to tap out. They kept going back hold to hold on this throughout the night. And Bayley got knocked off the apron. Sasha gets in the Asuka lock. Asuka gets the Asuka lock in. And Sasha can't find Bayley. And she had to tap out and lose the title just a month after winning it. The Sasha stands online lost their mind. But the storyline is there. Bayley wasn't there for Sasha. Sasha was there for Bayley. And they're going to break up the most over female act in WWE. And I think Payback next Saturday is the official break, because they're going to have a tag team match at that. They're going to defend their tag team titles at that. They no longer have all the gold here. Asuka wins it. What did you think of this storyline throughout the night with 2 different matches? I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
I enjoyed it too. I almost wish it would have. My thought was going to be that they would have flipped it somehow, that Sasha goes over, or Asuka wins the first match, and then you do the turn tonight to have Sasha cost her the title and then establish like that I'm coming after it, you know what I mean? Or cause a DQ. Or wasn't it no DQ?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I'm not certain.
I think in general, as far as builds go, this is one of the better things WWE has been doing, because I think they've inadvertently been slow playing it. Like, I think if it was up to them, they would have blown this off months ago. But I think because of COVID, because of different restrictions and things that they've had to tape here and there, that they've just had to stretch this out 4 or 5 months, and it's been great. Like, I was begging for this turn, because you
remember when people say WWE's hot shots everything? You know, we had Sonya and Mandy in the. I thought the match was sort of underwhelming, but that's been going since March or February, right? And this has been going how much long? You could even say this was from a year ago that they've been building like Sasha and Bayley for a long time. But mind you, they've gone on and off with it here.
Yeah.
Nesha Kirsch is texting and saying the role models will lose the belts at Payback next weekend. I do think they lose the belts, and that is kind of the official breakup. That is the bad part, is WWE doesn't do those definitive moments. You know, like they don't do the definitive breakup of a group. They always have to kind of drag it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's more the monster, the content they have with so much stuff they have to put out.
Yeah. I think I would have more liked it if Sasha won, just because you would have set up that champion versus champion. But now that I just thought of it, you would have had to turn her, and then they have this tag match next week. Like that ruins. But I think more likely it's them waiting a week, so they think people are going to watch Payback to watch this turn, and they're probably right.
You know, you're probably right. And if I was them, I would make that the main event of the show. I mean, if it is kind of like an extra pay-per-view that you're just throwing at fans, give them a moment that closes it. You know, this is a big quarterly pay-per-view. People are going to tune in for SummerSlam. They're just casual fans. They know the name. They know WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, you know? And this is just another way to get those people to stick around for a little bit more period of time. Definitely an interesting take here. So I thought it was a fun part of the show. I did think some things underwhelmed, but here's where the show really kicked up a notch in the second hour. It's been building for a long, long time. Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins. And then they worked in Dominik Mysterio. When I interviewed Rey Mysterio last year, while he was on an injury, he did a great campaign for autism awareness. He did this online, and he did a bunch of different interviews for it. And I was fortunate enough to be part of one of those interviews. And no one was asking him about Dominik. They're all asking him, are you going to leave for WWE because your contract's coming up? Well, we don't know if he signed a new deal, but Rey Mysterio is still on TV, and his son is with WWE. And in that interview last year, he told me, I will end my career in WWE, and I want my son to be involved with it and likely do it at WrestleMania. If they're not doing anything with Rey Mysterio and his son Dominik at WrestleMania, they did something tonight. I will say this felt like a WrestleMania match. This felt like a really, really big, high-stakes match. Dominik Mysterio's in-ring debut against Seth Rollins of the WWE, the man who's been terrorizing his family, took out his father's eye, attacked him, put him on the shelf, all these different things. Now, they had that awful match at Horror Show. I thought that match was fun, and then they did an awful angle, and now people call it an awful match. And I understand that. But this no DQ match, the elements mattered. The kendo sticks mattered. All that punishment that they've been doing to each other, this mattered. This felt like big budget ECW style stuff. I'm going to go after your family, and your son's going to fight me, and you're going to be at ringside. And his dad wanted to interfere to help him. And then they cut to Angie, his mom, backstage.
Yeah.
In drama dripping off the screen.
Byron was selling it so well.
This was, for me, this was the best match on the show. All right. And we had 2 nights in a row for WWE where debuting superstars, guys that are brand new to the ring that you know, characters that you know, but having their first real matches have the best matches. And this is where people are going to get pissed. It's about storylines. You can have a bunch of different people that can do a bunch of different things in the ring and do all the different dynamic things. And sometimes those matches steal the show. And you can always have that. But think about this. A guy in his debut night in WWE stole the show on Saturday night with Pat McAfee and Adam Cole. And tonight, Dominik Mysterio, a kid that we saw ringside when he was 8 years old in a big angle with Eddie Guerrero, got to have this great match. And cheers to Seth Rollins. This guy's still one of the best wrestlers in the world. He took the time to make Dominik matter, took the time to bring in all the supporting players, let things settle, and now let's throw the sauce on. Now let's lay in the kendo sticks. Now you fire up and I cut you off. Now your mom comes out, and now I'm going to go after your mother. Bang, lay me out, and let's go into the final sequence. It could have been Dominik winning. It could have been Rollins winning. They went with Rollins winning. This was a great, great match. I want Dominik versus Seth already again. I want it again. And if you have me saying that, and I'm jaded, and I watch and I cover all this stuff, and it's my profession, whatever you want to say, I was in. This was amazing. This is one of the best matches that WWE's had on pay-per-view all year long because it fulfilled the storyline. Forget about horror show. Dominik Mysterio versus Seth Rollins. It was awesome. And how about that gear? How about that gear that Seth had on tonight?
My one complaint, because I like the outfit itself, and I wonder if they did this on purpose. And he shocked me so much because this whole build, he's looked like a kid who is playing, like Jim Cornette would say, he's a kid playing wrestler. And I wonder if he doesn't really have a lot of shape. He's got the tattoo. And then even when he was wearing the outfit, you look at him and you're like, that doesn't look right. Like, it just doesn't match. It's clearly him trying to be his dad. And then
the gear he had on tonight.
Yeah. And then
I thought it was cool.
What I'm saying is throughout the match, you start to see him earn the uniform. This match did start as just some kid who was pretending to be his dad, but now he's a Mysterio. Now he earned that suit. And
I was kind of distracted by the hood because he could flip it on at one point because it was like a hood version of his father's mask. And I wonder if at some point they do the handover of.
That's what I think. Here's what my play would be.
Play it out. Make me cry because I know you're going to make me cry.
You hand the mask off at WrestleMania. Dominik finally beats Seth at WrestleMania. Ray hands him the mask and then is his manager for the next 2 years. Unmasked as his man. He's managing his son.
Go listen to this interview I did with Rey Mysterio because he kind of lays something very, very close to what you described. I wouldn't say it's not exactly what you talked about, but Keith, it's pretty darn close, and it's from the guy that you're talking about. So if you guys haven't checked that out, it's available in our podcast feed. Just Google Rey Mysterio Wrestlezone interview. It's a pretty sweet moment and a great conversation if you're just a fan of Rey Mysterio. So many people joining us for the first time. Thank you so much. Shout out where you guys are watching from if this is your first time on the show. And shout out to the people that made us number 11, Keith. Wrestlezone podcast. Number 11 on the Apple Sports podcast chart.
That's big
in the country of Cyprus. Let me just tell you, the Cyprian wrestling fans are turning out for WrestleZone, and I appreciate that. Let's see what the fans think. Shawnee and Reed saying Mysterio's son looked awesome. Other people texting in, loving this.
Smooth.
People saying he's got talent. He looks special. There were some rough things for him in the ring, but this kid's grown up around wrestling. This is something he wanted to do. You can tell he's still coming into his own. And I think the thing to think about this, if you saw anything where it wasn't great, think of this. He's only going to get better. You know when I wasn't
super impressed, that superplex spot towards the end of the match when he has to block Seth's superplex. When he started blocking it, I was like, he knows how to do that. He knows how, it was. And then when Seth jumps and they finally do it the way Dominik got from turnbuckle to post so quick, I was like, that's in his blood. This is in his blood.
And he did that because also he knows he has to protect his opponent when he's going down. If he does that, this is something I learned from people, is propelling yourself. If you propel yourself a little bit further, the person who's giving you the offense is going to take less of the bump. So I was like, that's Dominik also doing right by Seth in there. And I was like, that's great instincts. It was really, really strong by him. A great night. I really, really enjoyed it. Some people watching it for the first time. Peter Sawyer watching the show for the first time from Rhode Island. Rhode Island out there? You out there in Rhode Island there, Quayhawk? So thank you for watching the show and joining us on the podcast for the first time. Jason Rodon texting and saying, did you guys hear Seth tell Dominik to do the frog splash? No. That maybe that'll come up in the next episode of Botchamania when they turn up the sound really loud and they catch everyone doing the signaling. I did like Seth yelling out, "Come on, do it!" Like him like choke. He put a hold. Like in the first minute of the show, first minute of the match, he put a hold on Dominik and literally turned to Ray. "Come on, do it for Uncle Eddie." And I was like, "Oh, you son of a!" I was like, I'm marking now. My name's Kevin, but I'm turning into a mark now. You got me. I loved it. I thought this was the best match of the show. I want more. I think a tag match could be pretty cool. They haven't done that exactly yet. And that would be pretty fun. Buddy Murphy, good little supporting player. Angie, the mom, I loved Rey Mysterio and Angie, his wife, yelling at each other in Spanish and
shirt.
And I also thought Angie was going to get involved. I thought the wife was going to come down there and grab a kendo stick and like whack Seth Rollins with it. I thought she was
going to take a bump when he handcuffs Ray to the ring and he turns around and sees her. I go to my girlfriend. I go, Angie's going to take a bump.
And when Seth turned, like when he turned, he did the perfect evil thing of like turning towards the wife who's like 20 yards away, and they cut it off the right way. It was pretty cool. People telling me Botchamania is worldwide. He's got a match. Matthew, Botchamania, some really fun stuff on the internet. Absolutely loved it for years. Go check it out. People want to see a tag match with Seth and Buddy versus Ray and Dominik. See, another thing is people thought this storyline is played out. I think this pumps a whole bunch of new gasoline into this thing. And definitely they got to do something next week with this on Payback. And that's a weird thing. This is going to be a weird build coming on us. We have the Sasha and Bayley thing. We know we're getting that next week. Are we going to get something with Roman on this pay-per-view next Sunday? It's a week build to another pay-per-view. I really think it's just to sink people in and get them to stay as subscribers.
I kind of was impressed with how they were able to close stuff off, but still keep it's hard when you have this blow off show and then you're immediately doing another quote unquote pay-per-view, and they still kind of kept it fresh while closing off some storylines.
Well, it's modern story time. I mean, a lot of us have grown up with wrestling. It's, big shows of the year. Those are the blow off. Those are the big finishes. And then you start new storylines, right? I don't think that's key, because if you look at what's been successful for WWE recently and you look at the numbers, it looks a different way. People consume media a completely different way than they did when you and I were 15 and we got together in our pay-per-view party and we get our big blow offs and we find out what happens, right? It's different than that. Like, you have to watch TV and kind of check in with it. They have a lot of people that just follow online and follow digitally. Is there a delayed response internationally with those fans? It's a lot of different things, a lot of different places to spin. And I don't think stories are told that way anymore. So I don't think they should present them the same way anymore. People say, how come AJ Styles wasn't on the show? He's having some great matches. They did him and Jeff Hardy on Friday. Why wasn't that on SummerSlam? I saw people say it. Because you still need great stuff on TV. And Fox is proving that they want big matches on those shows. They did Daniel Bryan versus Styles. The Intercontinental Tournament final was before Backlash, I think.
Yeah.
And that was a great match, one of the best matches they've had this year. And people are like, how come that wasn't on pay-per-view? Because I think sometimes giving great pay-per-view matches on TV is important, especially now in 2020. When people give you all this time and you produce all this content, you got to make them feel like they can go to Twitter and say, see, this is why I watch WWE, because stuff like that, not because of crap like this, And people's memories are short, and you kind of have to give them those memorable things, even though they forget pretty quickly.
Plus, I think you need to save guys like AJ. Like, I think when you have him on every show and every pay-per-view, then people will turn around and be like, well, now he's just wrestling Murphy. Like, he's just wrestling these jobbers. Why isn't he doing the big storylines? Because, like, if you keep him off for a couple weeks, then you could, precipitate that.
Mm-hmm. Some people saying, is Dominik going to go to WWE NXT? I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in NXT at some point. I mean, it's because he is such a fresh face. Maybe something after this storyline, he would go to NXT, and that would be a fun thing for him to do to refine who he is and maybe create a new version of his own character, so he isn't just Rey Mysterio's kid, you know?
Yeah.
It's not going to be Rey Mysterio Jr., you know?
I definitely think he needs to go off and do something until the Rumble. Let him do his own thing, and then around Royal Rumble time, have Seth cost him something. Maybe Dominik's number 5 in the Royal Rumble, and Seth comes out and rips him off the apron or something like that.
Other big moments on tonight's WWE Summerslam, several big title matches, several big moments. And one they've been building up to is Randy Orton versus the WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre. And Randy Orton's been on a roll. He got to beat Edge in another great pay-per-view match. People forgetting how great that match was already because Edge got hurt.
The greatest match of all time.
It was the greatest match of all time. They built it as such, and it delivered on such, Keith. It was everything they said it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was a great match. It wasn't the greatest.
Greatest match ever edited.
Asterisk. Asterisk, yeah. So they rolling off of that, they get him ready to take on Drew here at SummerSlam. That was the direction they're going, and I think it was the right one. They had a great match tonight. I thought it was fun. It was a lot of old school wrestling. They didn't have the hardcore elements that a bunch of things had on the show. This was wrestling, and this is Randy Orton being methodical with his flashbang movement and then settle in, flashbang stuff. Guys getting bloody, like a little bit of blood, not too much. You know, Drew feeling the mind games of Randy Orton. And the first you didn't see it coming. Did you see this coming moment that they would tease you with was Drew beating Randy. It seemed like they told the story like Randy's going to win this match. Randy is an evil guy, and he's always been evil, and he'll be able to figure out a way to be evil and beat Drew, the valiant hero who's tried to wave the flag of WWE in this challenging, uncertain time. Drew got a great entrance. He felt like a big star. They tried to treat him like a star. They shot him like a star when he came out to the ring. And a flash finish, not the RKO, not anything. They did the Future Shock, Drew's old finisher. I thought was kind of fun. They did some different things here, but a flashing roll-up finish. This to me felt like Flair and Steamboat. Like we're gonna have a big match, and we're not gonna do like a wild finish. We're gonna do a catch you off guard finish, and it worked. I thought it was fun. I want to see more.
And it sets up that there could be more because if you have him go over clean with a Claymore, then you've beaten him. You've defeated him. Now you give.
If they do the rematch next Sunday on Payback, I'm on board.
Well, and Orton could come out and be like, "You didn't beat me. Like that's luck. That's not a win. Like I want to knock you out. You need to knock me out. Come knock me out.
You didn't kick my ass. You didn't beat me. You wrestled me. You know, like he'll say something like that. And they'll have something.
No leg slap in this match.
And no leg slapping. No leg slapping there. So after that, we get a tease here that Keith Lee is going to be on Monday Night Raw. Keith Lee losing the NXT Championship against Karrion Kross. If you haven't checked it out yet, we spoke with Triple H himself on a post-show media call with all of the media last night that is available in our podcast feed and up on our YouTube and Facebook. Go watch that. Go listen to it. He details that Karrion Kross suffered a shoulder injury in that. I also talked about how Keith Lee got the title at a very challenging time to be the champion. They were successful with that. That was a ratings win for NXT that night. And Keith Lee goes over to Raw. What do you think of Keith Lee moving to Raw? Is it too soon, too fast to take him out of NXT?
I don't think so. I think he's that good and that big of a star. And normally I would be kind of upset of like, you could run with this guy in NXT, but the way he works, how big he is, the kind of the need for diversity at the top of the show, it's a perfect move. Before I would say maybe someone like Velveteen Dream would be positioned to that, but we all saw how the summer he's been having. So
we have something to talk about with Velveteen Dream, and it's not good.
No,
we'll talk about that. I know some people get very angry if I don't talk about that on every episode of the show that I've done for the past 2 weeks, but I will address it. Don't worry.
So I think if you're going to move him to the main roster and give him the same push that you were like showing in NXT, then I'm fine with it. But if you just put the belt on him because you knew it was going to give you a ratings pop, and then you're going to put him on Raw and put him in the mid card, then it's something that would be so classic WWE, but it would be very disappointing. But I don't think they are. I think that he's a star, dude.
Yeah. So overall, we've talked about all the big things. Am I forgetting anything huge here on SummerSlam? Is there a massive match that I'm omitting?
No, I don't think so.
All the big stuff.
You want to talk about Apollo Crews and MVP?
That was fine. They have some new shirt. It was just fine, and they couldn't come down to the ring, and maybe he could have come down to the ring. That's an angle I'm not super into. Like it hasn't wowed me at all yet to see what they're doing with that. But
Yeah.
like they could be done with it. They can move on to Hurt Business versus somebody else with that already. Nothing super fantastic. Other people, if you're watching though, give us your rating here. Your 1 to 10 on tonight's WWE Summerslam. If you didn't know that this show is happening and you saw some things on social media, would you be like, oh man, I feel like I missed a show? Because there's some people I talked to that are casual fans that feel like they missed something because Roman Reigns showed up, and they missed something because Drew McIntyre beat Randy Orton, and everyone thought Randy Orton was just going to take the belt from him. I want to know what you guys think. Give me your 1 to 10. Keith of the Keith Paesel podcast. Featuring Adam Crocious. A very, very fun podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate it. If you miss just being around your friends and maybe imbibing on certain substances or liquids while watching television, just shitting on whatever's on TV and riffing on it, this is the show for you. It is you have podcastable companionship. That is the best way of describing what you're doing. Like, it feels like I'm with my funny friends making fun of anything on TV, and it's a great, great show. I know I usually save the plugs for the end. I'm gonna use the Robert DeFelice rule and break it and go to my plugs too early. Go listen to this podcast. Yeah. It is my favorite thing. This is not an insult. I love putting it on right before I go to bed. Or I love putting it on right before I go to bed.
That's dope. You got soothing voice. Or if you need something to fold your laundry to.
Yes. It has been like I have a tedium that I have to deal with, like a folding of laundry. I was mopping I have vinyl floors. I had to mop the vinyl floor. I put it on then, and I had like another hour of it to finish, and I would put it on, and it was like, all right. And it takes me a long time to fall asleep, so I'm like, listen, it's good. I'm just
there. We go.
It's a very unique thing. You guys literally watch TV and linear, not like we're just gonna watch a show from beginning to end. No, just whatever's on, and we're just gonna jump around.
We're at the mercy of the guide.
Yeah, the mercy of the guide. So it's definitely worth checking out. Great audio. Some of the episodes are pretty long too. So if you're a Joe Rogan type listener where you just want that long type of thing, this is a great listen.
Keep telling Crocious I'm going to get him to 3 hours one day.
Definitely go check it out. These are really, really smart people. These aren't just dips, dragging their knuckles in the ground. These are smart, funny people making fun of television and sports. It's quite the listen here. A lot of people enjoyed tonight's SummerSlam. They're giving it really good ratings here. I haven't seen anyone text one in that's less than a 7 right now. So
I enjoyed it a lot.
1 to 10. What do you give it to? One being a Bastion Booger, 10 being Ultimo Dragon is your dad. So what do you give the show?
You know what? I'm gonna give it a 6. And for me, as someone but to me, that's great because Kevin, I was going into it with so little faith.
Okay.
Because you know me, I'm AEW to the core.
This show was already like a -3 before the first bell rang.
Like I like my wrestling in gymnasiums, baby. Like I'm an indie mud show guy. So the fact that
I like my wrestlings in gyms. I don't need a Thunderdome.
So the fact that this got me to a 6, I thought the 2 world title matches were spectacular. The match that I thought was going to be the worst was up there with the best ones. And yeah, and with a normal SummerSlam with a crowd, this would be a 8 or a 9. But
Okay, so you're still in the camp of no crowd. It's gonna take something away from
the Thunderdome lost its luster pretty quick for me.
Okay, so did you see any of the SmackDown, like the debut of it, and then this, where you just kind of like already done with it?
I didn't see SmackDown, but the only reason I was done with it so quick is because DC Comics did the same thing. Like I feel like
they had the fandom. They had the fandom,
and then the NBA. Like when I found out, I was like, oh, they're just doing the NBA thing, but with a different name. Like they didn't really sell it well enough.
I'm not against Thunderdome. I do think it's better than the Performance Center. Mm-hmm. And if you're starting there, I'm on board. If you're doing something that feels big time, that's all I'm going to say. Like if it feels like a big time presentation and it feels immensely bigger than being in the Performance Center, which has sort of a muted sound to it, even with people there, it feels isolated. It feels smaller than WWE should feel. This is still a new thing. And I still think WWE is going to try different things with it. Much like Raw Underground, I'm like, let it grow before you even say it has to be put away. This isn't like a one and done type thing. I liked it. It felt cool. I want to watch more of it. I'm not sick of it. And I don't hate it. I do think there are some weird things with it. There is a delay. They do have the audio sync is kind of off, but as much as you have to adapt now, WWE's doing that, and they're trying to do it as much as they can. And I don't look at the company doing bad. I look at the production guys that have to figure this out and really try and have this delivered for the people in the ring and the people producing the content.
And they're all like 60, so they're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's as good as it can be for what they're trying to do. Is that like I'm coming into it with a reasonable?
I think it would help if I don't think they should do it for Raw and SmackDown. I think it should be a pay-per-view only thing. Do everything else in the Performance Center, and then your blow-off shows are at Amway. Like, I think it'll immediately get lame if it's
or like just SmackDown is there, and maybe maybe you do Raw in like an amphitheater or something like that. You know, who knows how long the pandemic is going to last? Our hope is that it's done by the first quarter of 2020. You know, like that's the time frame we hear from, you know, vaccines and different things like that. But who knows how long it'll take to get people back into arenas and touring and stuff like that.
Didn't they already pull their WrestleMania in LA? Aren't they already not?
You're in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So you kind of know about this. But LA has already said we're not doing anything. They said we're not going to even think about doing anything until like the summer of next year.
Yeah.
So because of how LA is set up, because it's so spread out, and the venues aren't isolated. Like Chicago, we have a lot of things downtown. They're kind of all within 8 miles. Mm-hmm. With LA, everything is within a 25-30 mile radius. So you're going to bring in a lot more people with that. So I could see LA saying, we don't want that many people traveling in when we don't know if everyone's vaccinated, even if there is a vaccine. That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Let's stay on point. My ADD is kicking in here. So you give it a 6 out of 10.
Yes.
What is the Kev? What do I give SummerSlam? All right. I enjoyed the show overall. I didn't think it was better than last year's SummerSlam. I don't think it's the best SummerSlam I've ever seen. I even think that maybe some other shows that WWE did this year may have been better shows overall. But the big moments were fun. And outside of Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, I don't think there was a real dud on the card. Some matches were less than compelling. Other ones were very compelling. But overall, I give WWE SummerSlam 2020 a 7.8. All right. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. It felt like a big time show. Thunderdome, unlike you, added to the element of the show. The wide shots felt like I was at a big show, even though it's not. I know it's stilted. I know it's virtual. But I thought this was a fun show. A good night out at the matches that you can have in this weird, uncertain time. I like WWE trying and adapting. I think people get mad at them when they try and they don't like it. Well, other people on the internet told me it's bad. But have you really made up your mind for yourself? Or are you just looking at a meme that told you it sucks? You know, my thing is, I've watched enough of it. I watched SmackDown. I watched it tonight. Is it great? No. Hopefully they get it right. But right now, it's pretty cool to see people behind wrestlers at a ring. All right? They're trying. All right? They're trying, and they're putting a lot of money into this, too.
It looks impressive. I will say that. And I think they just want it to look very impressive.
And yeah, it's definitely not boring. I don't think you can look at that and say it's boring, you know? So definitely the take there too. Some other things going on outside of SummerSlam. Something happened on SummerSlam that you may have seen. We tweeted this out. A lot of people have hit us up about it. It is the situation with Velveteen Dream. Now, Velveteen Dream has been accused of sexual misconduct, specifically communicating with underage teenagers. And in an inappropriate fashion. He's been this was pre the speaking out movement. Some of it was debunked. Some of it came back up with the speaking out movement. Then Dream went away in the spring. There was a car accident. People within the wrestling industry, within insiders that we know in the Florida area, the assumption that it was just a matter of when Dream was going to be let go from the company, not if. And now we get him reappearing on TV. Triple H twice on the record on a pre takeover call earlier this week and a post-show call addressed it twice, saying that they have looked into it and they did not find anything and they've moved on from the issue. But people online have not moved on from the issue. The accusations are still circling. One person who said that they made an accusation was not contacted by WWE. And people I know within the industry who were on that call, no one from Wrestlezone, we just didn't get the opportunity to ask the question, did ask. And like I said, Triple H 2 times said, we looked into it and it isn't the case. He was brief. He was blunt. He didn't go into detail. He didn't seem mad. He wasn't like, stop asking me that. wasn't that. I mean, WWE's responded to this, but a lot of people are angry with WWE, maybe for the way they handled this situation. Simply not saying we've looked into it and now Dream will return on television. No, they just had him appear as a mystery guy on TV, and it upset a lot of fans. And the trend, fire Velveteen Dream, or the Velveteen Dream is this. It's bad. Well, when you have the Thunderdome with people on screen, Keith, you get those webcams, some people can get some signs on TV.
Uh-oh.
And one got on television, and it said in white letters on a big, bold black background, and if you look at it, it says Fire Velveteen Dream. And it was on the hard cam shot of the screens, of the Thunderdome screens, during the entrance for Sasha Banks and the second match for Asuka tonight. We have it up on Twitter. And it certainly got a lot of attention. And in 2020, I will use the word cancel culture once. Cancel culture likes getting cancel culture over. And they were on for this. They were more into this than me talking about something compelling in the Dominik Mysterio performance or the title changes or maybe even Roman Reigns coming back. And social media, the favorite thing to do in 2020 is to, I guess, go after someone you think is evil and do it with a bunch of different other people on the internet. And I'm not defending Velveteen Dream, but this is just where we are. What do you think of this scenario? How do you think it's playing out? And what do you think of WWE's response to it so far?
I think I'm open to someone saying we investigated this and we have full faith, blah, blah, blah. But it's the quickness that it happened. He was off TV for a month. Even AEW acted harder. They took who they just released that got caught up.
Jimmy Havoc was
they took him off TV indefinitely, and then they quietly fired him. I just think, and I'll say the phrase again, I think weirdly Triple H and WWE has taken this anti-cancel culture stance. We're like, we're not going to fire these guys. Too many people are getting fired. We're going to rehabilitate them. We're going to make them better. Second chance, which I don't know. With other things, maybe there's merit to that, but this is too serious of an accusation. And one was debunked, but I have a little thing called the Roethlisberger rule, and it's if you have multiple accusations,
that's not good.
That's not good. One, I'll argue with you, but two,
and we can say it does feel like one of the accusations was clearly debunked.
It was like a photoshopped picture.
Yeah, it was a Photoshop, and there was one where someone used audio of him on television.
Yeah,
and like put it over like a screenshot of text and like made it seem like it was something he sent like in an audio message. I was like, oh wow, that's out there, like that's a different level.
And part of me thinks WWE is weird old school business enough to think like, well, we didn't put him over, so that's enough. Like they don't think that the extreme of letting him go is worth it. Well, he didn't win the title, so that should be good enough. Or we buried him, that should be good enough.
I'm of the thought where I do feel like WWE did investigate this. Yeah. But I think the thing that really upset fans the most is that they just didn't come out and say, listen, we hear you. And Triple H said like they take this seriously. And we have talked to people in the industry, we've talked to people that work with WWE that they do take this very, very seriously. They fired several people in the UK because of this. And they've looked into other people in their company that aren't wrestlers for this. So this goes beyond just wrestlers.
And I think the problem though is the language they use. Never once does Triple H say sexual assault. He never puts a face on it. He says allegations, this situation. We looked into it.
Part of it, there's some mitigating circumstances with that. And I don't mean to take away from what you did. Right. Some people say saying inappropriate things is misconduct. Some people say assault is misconduct. And it depends on what, like Sammy Guevara said something that was bad in AEW. Right. And was reprimanded for it. Other people have said things and have acted a certain way, but we all know the line is physical assaults. But then some of it all gets lumped in the same thing. And so some people, that's a legal thing. Triple H is is walking a very fine line legally. Another thing is, I'll say this. I think WWE is held to a different legal standard and the legal repercussions of how they handle these situations with those individual people. You look at the situation with Enzo, where he was accused at one point, he was legally vindicated, but people say, well, how come he just didn't get his job back? If the police have already dropped the investigation, said there's nothing to it. The reason for that is Enzo didn't tell WWE he was being investigated. All right. That is the clear difference. For other people, it's the court of public opinion is not the court of legal ramification. So I think in this day and age, people say, well, enough of us are tweeting, something needs to happen, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think that's, here's the thing, that's a false reality. That's something you impose around each other. And I like this wrestler, so he should be the top guy. I think this is wrong, and enough of us think it's wrong, and we think this is wrong, and we don't know for sure if it's wrong, but we're saying it's wrong, so it's wrong. And it then becomes perception becomes reality. But perceptions aren't complete reality. We don't know everything. That's all I'm saying, is we just don't know everything.
Right.
And the lack of us not knowing something leads us to make assumptions wildly as a group. And I do think that isn't the right or healthy thing to do. I do think there's going to be people who get hurt by that didn't do anything wrong. Now, do I know if Velveteen Dream did anything wrong? Am I saying no, I'm not. I just I don't know. I don't think people who are tweeting at this rate about it do know enough to say it. That's all I'm saying.
I also think what adds to the criticism WWE gets around this stuff is the things they fired people for. They fired refs for missing 3 counts. And like, you can't fire this guy because he has serious allegations against him like that. It just doesn't track. It's not consistent.
Some truth to that there. And it does put them in a tough situation, especially if they investigate it and they have someone come out and say, well, they didn't talk to me. And it's like, then it's like a new thing. You know, it's like, do we even know about that person? You know, it's like you're held to this investigative standard then too. And it's like, you're just trying to be an entertainment company and have people, and how do you vet them for that type of behavior too? It's a whole other challenging thing for them to deal with. And I'm not taking their side. I'm just saying there's so much more to this than just the surface level tweet, retweet. Look at this tweet. Have you seen what came out this time? Like, you gotta slow down and kind of take everything a little bit easier. And once again, I'm not taking anyone's side. People always say I'm taking people's sides. Keith, did you know I'm horny for WWE? Do you ever hear that? People say I'm horny.
You're a mark.
My nipples get real hard when I get a 50-50 finish. You know what I mean? Like that. Like I've told people that a couple of times.
Yeah.
I should have a.
We make
I
fun
should have
of
a horny. I should put out a horny for WWE t-shirt.
You really should. That's your merch.
How if I wore that to an AEW show, do you know how many people would get pissed?
Oh yeah. But where AEW is cool is they would show you on TV with it. They're not afraid of existing on the planet Earth with other companies.
No, WWE exists in its own universe.
It's not, and that's what I was going to add to the Velveteen Dream stuff. Is the reason they use the touch around language is because in their head they don't exist on Earth. It's not
Mark. Look at this. We're getting text here. John Clark, fan of the show, been on the show. Says
Kevin is a WWE Mark.
Mark. No, my name is Kevin. Stop, Mark. What are you talking about?
He went 7.8. He didn't give it a full 8 today.
See, there you go. Thank you, Keith. So that is the situation as well. We did have NXT TakeOver last night. I have not done a show since then. I'll touch on it. I loved it. I thought that show was probably better than SummerSlam by
It always is.
Just a bit.
I think I said this last time I was on this show. There has, and you could fight me on this, there has never been a bad takeover.
No, there hasn't. There hasn't been a bad takeover. Yeah. And this show had a bunch of surprises on it, some sad ones, like Karrion Kross getting injured in the main event. And him winning the title was a surprise. I thought WWE was going to stick with Keith Lee a lot longer, but now they're putting him on Raw. That was a good match, but it could have been better. And I think the injury, if you look at it in retrospect, you kind of learn that, especially after the show, because it wasn't clear that he was injured right away. But it was definitely something, especially when you don't know if the show is taped or not. It's not clear if that show is taped. And that do they edit around that? So they have a new champion. Karrion Kross is your new champion. I don't know what the scenario is going to be with him, especially because he's hurt. Maybe that title gets off of him. But I'm happy for him. He's a guy who has earned these type of things. He's a big time player. I think he made the right choice going with WWE in terms of how he can frame himself on camera, how he can carry himself, how much he's a very much vignette character driven performer, but can still bring that brutality in the ring. And Keith Lee did right by it, making him look as strong as he could under the circumstances. Also very happy for Scarlett. I used to work with Scarlett in the radio business in Chicago. She was a spokeswoman for Q87.7, a radio station worked for. She was involved in the wrestling business then. Very, very happy for her because this is a successful moment for her as well. And I feel bad about the injury with everything. But the match of the night was not the main event. Match of the night, came out of nowhere. It was for the brand.
Dude.
Boom.
Patty McAfee.
Pat McAfee, syndicated radio host, very popular podcast with the Westwood One. And this guy, former kicker for the Indianapolis Colts, has been around in and out of WWE doing the pre-show kickoffs, but very much a provocative character who gets under people's skin if they don't know who he is. And if you love him, you love him. If you hate him, you hate him. Being divisive in 2020 is an important thing. And he comes into this match with being the outsider. He's the Lawrence Taylor. He's the Floyd Mayweather. He's the athlete coming into the wrestling world. And you know, Keith, that always is a hard thing to be. And you get judged by a different standard. But he said going into this, I'm not going to embarrass myself. I'm not going to be like those guys from Saturday Night Live, like Colin Jost and Michael Shea. He didn't like what they did at WrestleMania. I'm not going to be like Tyson Fury, over at Crown Jewel, Saudi Arabia. He didn't like Pat McAfee. He didn't like that match. He said, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do a good job. And I thought, we're going to get maybe a 5-10 minute match with a bunch of different supporting players. And, they'll do different things to hide whatever Pat McAfee does. And he'll have a handful of different things he can do in the ring that are impressive. It'll be fun. They've done this with celebrity matches before, and people tend to be surprised by them, and they're good. But think about this. Before the show, if I told you Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole was going to be better than Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee, better than Io Shirai and Dakota Kai in terms of reactions and what they got online, you wouldn't believe me. This may have been the best match of the weekend. Think about that.
Yeah.
How surprising was Adam Cole won the match. The ending was a little wonky. They did the tequila sunrise, and Pat had to kind of crawl into position to get himself in there. But this guy went 20 minutes in his first match, doing clotheslines, backflips off the top rope, doing splashes onto a big crowd of people. And then that was 5 minutes into the match, they got rid of all the supporting players, and then it became like a single showdown. Pat McAfee went the distance in his first match. Incredibly impressive. Triple H said we're going to see more. What do you think of this?
I thought it was great. I love the build. They actually, because I watched Pat McAfee's show and I watched the Adam Cole episode as it was happening. And for an entire day, I had to text you about whether it was a work or not. I was like, dude, Pat got to Adam Cole. I thought it was all based on a work, but I thought it was a real blow up. He cussed, he pushes the assistant.
It was a work, but I can tell you some things I've learned about that just from being around the radio business. There was a lot with that, though. They did that some radio people were not happy about.
Really?
Specifically, there was some swearing in it. Portions of that were broadcasters and portions of it weren't. If you watch Pat's show and you just see the clips on YouTube, sometimes he'll kind of look to a producer and they kind of know all right, we're done with radio and we're coming back, and he'll kind of acknowledge that they're not on the radio and they're kind of on a break from radio, and the signal that's going out isn't. So it's not clear to me, because I didn't hear the radio feed. I just saw the internet one, that the part that they were swearing on could have been on the radio, and that if you swear on the radio, you're kind of held to an FCC standard, and that's different. So there was some fear about that, and that's execution and different things like that. I don't know if everyone was aware that Adam Cole was going to get up there and start dropping a bunch of F-bombs, but it's certainly set off the internet on fire. I think this is an internet-driven promotion. NXT is driven by hardcore male 18 to 34s, right? Even though some people say they don't win that demographic. This was cool. I liked it, and come on, how impressive was he in the ring, though? His athleticism,
and
first time out.
Promo, he's the best promo in that company, in NXT. McAfee's promos are great. He he's been trained, like you said off air, he's been training for more than 2 weeks. He was doing topes. The way he was bumping was so clean. I kind of was iffy on them turning Cole, using this program to turn Cole babyface, because he's a babyface now. He's the top babyface in the company now. And I think people were a little leery about an outsider being the heel immediately. But they played it off nice.
McAfee's a natural heel. I mean, he's got a lot of shit on the spoon. You know what I mean? He's really stirring it up every time he's out there. And also the way he carried himself in the ring, it wasn't I'm going to do a whole, okay, now we have to go do this. Now, you see people do that when they're new wrestlers. They don't have that natural transition. He did the backflip off the top rope and was huffing and puffing, right? And he looked at Cole and yeah, dude, I'm that good. And backflip off the top rope, went right back into a move.
He even knew to kind of still look like a football player, though. I bet Rip Rogers taught him the psychology of don't look too good, though. get your shit in, but then, throw some weird punches and kind of look a little confused sometimes because you're not supposed to be a worker.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be a worker. He's supposed to be an athlete who can do things athletically, and he did that. Like the nimble athletic ability he had with that vertical leap to go from below the top, like the canvas, to the top rope, into a backflip, into suplexes, into lariat clotheslines with the big lean out, almost like JBL. He did one of those. He had a really clean lariat that he did there too, and it wasn't all great. I mean, like I mentioned, the ending was kind of odd, but this guy had a great performance. And if you just look at it on the surface, it was absolutely fantastic. Other great matches on that show to check out. I absolutely enjoyed it. Good weekend for WWE here. Thunderdome, people on the fence about it, but it got a great rating for SmackDown. NXT TakeOver was a great show. SummerSlam was a strong show. Not a great show, but a strong show. I'm feeling good. I mean, as much as people want to shit on WWE, I'm feeling all right. I know people want to come down on them. But
it was also a big moment for WWE to go kind of unopposed for an entire week against AEW. Like AEW had one show and WWE had 5. Like it was.
And Dynamite had a great night on Saturday night, all things considered, with the preemption, moving from Wednesday, getting bumped by the NBA game. The NBA game going a little bit late. Well, it didn't start at like 6:05. Like they started just a little bit later.
It was late. They were about 20 minutes late. Yeah.
Okay. So I remember I was kind of following along because I was watching TakeOver at the same time and doing coverage for that. Yeah. So, I mean, and like I said, guys, I know everyone wants to take a side in this whole AEW, NXT, WWE thing. You do not have to do that. Like your allegiance is to your own time and your own decisions and fun that you have with your family and friends. And it is not to a millionaire in Jacksonville and a billionaire in Stamford, Connecticut.
You told me something that resonated me with one time in a bar late at night. Kevin was hammered. We were talking wrestling and he just goes, Keith, when WWE's good, everybody wins.
Yeah.
Like
everybody wins.
He's right. It's when the big guy, it trickles down. As much as that doesn't work economically, it works in entertainment.
Oh, there's Reaganomics in wrestling, baby. Let me tell you. But think about it. I mean, like WWE signed $1 billion TV deal with Fox. Then what happened? Then NBC goes, oh, okay, all right. Well, we really want you to keep Raw though, and so we're gonna give you $1 billion. Okay, cool. That's $2 billion TV deals. So then what happens after that? Then Warner goes like, oh wait, we could get back into the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. What's out there? Maybe we don't. I mean, we can't get anything from WWE. They're not going to give us a third brand, right? And so AEW comes in. AEW has a TV contract because WWE got those big TV deals.
Yeah.
And that is a sour spot that no one who's on there, AEW, let's burn down the headquarters in Stanford. Like anyone who's in that camp, like you tell them that's, I've talked to economists, I've talked to business people, I've talked to people that work at Live Nation. They say those deals are the reason those other things happened. And then look at MLW even got like a new streaming TV deal. It's not a big. They're on Fubo, I believe. They're on a couple of different streaming platforms. Good for them.
NWA was hot before the pandemic,
and NWA may have had a TV deal. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, like it's okay. You can watch it all. You can watch it all. If you only watch some of it, I know some people that only watch WWE on YouTube. Great. You're watching wrestling. Do you know, man? Like if you're a 10-year-old kid and you only watch when Roman Reigns is on, great. You're a wrestling fan. It's all right, guys. It's okay.
I think people feel like if they hate WWE, they'll topple capitalism.
No. No. And I think, but also, this too, and this always aggravates people, but it's true. Hating WWE is the most indulgent, cool, back-scratching thing that people can do in wrestling fandom right now. Hating on them, and then also following it and watching it so that you can continue to hate on it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So what is coming up on the upcoming episode of the This Is Keith Paesel's podcast?
You know what? I've been having the feeling nostalgic lately. So my ultimate goal, and this is going to take some time, is I want to recreate a Saturday morning of TV for me. So I want to get an old TV schedule and find out what was on from 7:30 in the morning to noon and make like an hour like snapshot of all of it.
And you need the commercials then. but you need all like the commercials, you need all that stuff. There was a recent
favorite.
episode that you guys did, and I absolutely love this in
We
terms of
just
just like
watched
pop
commercials.
culture. Yeah, and you guys just watched commercials from the 70s, 80s, and you get to see all these products that people bought, and then it's really a mirror of culture then too, of like the way people acted, the way logos looked, and it's probably some things that maybe aren't politically correct now, and marketing them. And so it was a very, very good episode. It's very much a fun episode for you on the other side of the screen watching screens. We live our lives watching things now, especially in quarantine. We spend so much more time consuming content. And I really think it's kind of a piece of content about consuming content. Like that's the best way of describing it, and riffing with your friends about it. It's a podcastable companion. It is so fun. You and I were friends before you did the show, and we've been on car rides to comedy shows and stuff like that. And sometimes when you get together with comics, it's not even the show you're having the most fun
ride, it's the banter.
It's the hang, it's the ride, it's you and I BSing at a bar after an open mic. It's the throwing the ball around, and that's kind of what the podcast is. I highly, highly suggest you go and check it out. You guys have that on all the big streamies, don't you?
It's on YouTube. It's on all the audio platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's called This Is Keith Paesel's Podcast. We also have a YouTube channel that has a stand-up special that I shot in 2018.
Rat Tails.
The first 7 years of my stand-up career put into 45 minutes. It's stories about my childhood, doing the drugs with my father.
That is 100% legitimate.
Yeah, me and my dad party.
I was in the front row for that special. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's got that. It's got the TV podcast. I also have a podcast where I talk about comic books with another buddy named Kevin. And so
number one Kevin in your heart.
Number one
Kevin right here. I'm the number one Kevin in Keith's heart. All right.
Oh yeah.
Kevin versus Kevin. I'm calling out Kevin Hogan from Journey into Nerdery, your other podcast. I'm calling him out. I want to be the number one Kevin in Keith's heart. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is Keith Paesel. And yeah, that's the biggest way you can help me. You can help me earn this amount of money I make at my minimum wage job on my YouTube channel.
Kick ass, man. Support people making stuff too. I mean, some people have asked, is Wrestlezone going to have a Patreon? We do not. We do not have a Patreon. And we see a lot of people having them. And we're not crapping anyone having one. But support the podcast and support this show. We're on multiple ways. Doesn't matter how you listen to it. Just if you enjoy what Keith's doing on his show, what I'm doing on ours, it's independent. Share it. Just share it and tag somebody in the comments. If you don't want to share it on your page, send it to somebody you know, and join us for these live streams. Get on the virtual couch here, people hanging out like Derek Jones, a couple new people. If you're here for the first time, welcome to the club, dude. All right. Chris Brewer texting and saying SummerSlam was a huge step up. I agree, Chris. I had a fun time. Can we just remember when we have a good time? Because it's so much easier to be all mad and get our pitchforks and our digital torches and go find another Frankenstein to chase off in 2020. Let's just try and have a good time. All right. Yeah. When we need to go chase bad guys, we can do that. But when the good guys are good, let's remember that. I think we forget that very, very easily. You can follow me on Twitter at Kev Kellam. Of course, listen to 101 WKQX on the radio. You can stream it anywhere in the world. Best alternative station in the nation. Available on iHeartRadio, available on TuneIn. We have the upcoming History of Alternative project launching on the day after Labor Day. The best alternative music since the 1970s and on every weekday. It's going to be a lot of throwback tracks, a lot of fun history that we're putting together. It's quite the project. Very, very fun thing to listen to in the day. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Hope you had a good time. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. A lot of new people enjoying the show. Hopefully you'll be back with us tomorrow after Monday Raw, after AEW, NXT, and when watching wrestling. This is the thing I tell people. Another thing I do where I'm popping bubbles, Keith. I tell people when watching wrestling, the most important thing to do is to